What's that? Keep them coming. Yeah, that's it. Just keep them coming. Amen. Amen. PK, I don't know if I got any volume here on the mic. At least don't sound like I do. There we go. There we got something. I can hear me now.
Gene has trouble hearing me.
What's that?
I say Gene has trouble hearing me.
Well, Gene, you're not in a boat by yourself. My wife tells me I need to. Yeah, that's what my wife does too. But anyhow, we're in the same boat there. I think most of you have been with us, except for maybe Linda. We've been doing the dialogue series, A Hunger for God. I've mentioned to him, Linda, I don't know if you've done that in your church before or not, if you have that book at home or not, but it can be still got from Amazon. I don't think the publishing house carries it any longer for whatever reasons, but it's a good book to go along with the dialogue series. Today's lesson, I wish you had a book and could read it, because it's an awesome lesson this evening.
Is it one author or multiple authors?
It's Everett Leaningham.
Okay.
He's the editor, so that's all it says on it. But it's a hunger for God, what the Bible really says about holiness. And it's got a guy running in the sand with the blue ocean in the background, it looks like. But anyhow, it's an awesome lesson that we're going to be getting into this evening. Count the cost, and discount the cost. And so hopefully, as we look into this lesson this evening, we'll learn a little bit about what living a holy life demands. And in fact, it has to be a deliberate and total commitment to Jesus Christ, and be encouraged to make that commitment. It's something that we've got to want. Amen. It's something that you and I have to desire if we're going to live that holy life. Our scripture lesson is going to come from Luke chapter 14. I gave that to you last week, so hopefully you took some time since then and read the scripture, verses 25 through 35 this evening. But from time to time, people get sidetracked as they even try to follow Christ. It even happened to many of Jesus's disciples during his time here on earth. It's not unusual to get sidetracked. The question is, do you agree with that? Do you agree with it? Is it easy to get, or I shouldn't say easy, but from time to time, do you see people get sidetracked from the things of God? I think most of us would agree with that. And why is it though? Why do we get sidetracked? Why do individuals get sidetracked when you're talking about your walk with God? What can get us sidetracked?
I think what the biggest problem is to get our eyes on Jesus Christ.
I didn't hear it, Gary.
I think the biggest problem is we get our eyes on something besides Christ, and then that way we get sidetracked.
In reality,
in the world instead of Christ.
In reality, isn't it? Can't we say that is true in each anyone who gets sidetracked? That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. We get our eyes off of Jesus and have allowed something else to take that to place. And often the problem is not an inability to hear, but an unwillingness to accept Jesus at face value. We hear the preaching, we hear the Bible study, we hear the Sunday school lesson, we hear the songs. You know, songs, don't they speak to our hearts? We hear them, but there is an unwillingness to accept what we're being challenged with. What Jesus is challenging us with. There's a story in the book that I want to read to you. It says a ranger at Yellowstone National Park tells the story of a co-worker who led a hike through the forest to a fire lookout. The ranger / guide became so involved in pointing out flowers and wildlife that he considered the messages that were being sent over the two-way radio distracting. So he turned it off. And as the group neared the tower, the fire lookout tower, they were met by a distraught lookout who informed the ranger that a grizzly bear had been observed stalking the group. The ranger had failed to receive messages sent because his radio was turned off. You hear what we're saying? Sometimes we turn our radio off to where we don't hear what God is trying to say to us. And so living a holy life is sometimes difficult to stay on track. And so my question then is, how can we take that story and find or talk about similar things that can get you and me, or has gotten other people sidetracked from his or her Christian journey? What are some things, specific things? I know Gary mentioned eyes off of Jesus, but what are some of those things that gets our eyes off of Jesus?
Can I do something like that? What we think is urgent, priorities, we don't get them straight. Our priorities have a whole lot to do with what we do every single day. What we place value on, our priorities. If we get them mixed up, we get the wrong thing that we do each day and leave out the things we should do.
Amen.
Like Bible reading, prayer, and witnessing. Our priorities have a whole lot to do with what we do.
And we talked in a devotion last night in the board meeting about it shouldn't be a checklist for us about serving God. You know, it shouldn't be God first, family, you know, myself, others, whatever. Jesus wants to be the center of everything we do. But we need to set priorities. Make time to be holy. We talked about last night. Make time to be holy. How can I make time to be holy? Well, I need to spend time in the Bible, in God's Word. I need to spend time in prayer, in God's Word. I need to be in fellowship with God's people. You know, I need to be in church services when the doors are open. You know, and so there that is important. And what I have seen throughout the years, sports, especially for our kids, or activities of any sort for our kids, can really get us sidetracked. Health, injuries. If we begin to miss services, it doesn't take but 2 or 3 weeks to get in the habit of not, You hear what I'm saying?
It's easy.
It gets easier, doesn't it? And so living a holy life requires that deliberate and total commitment, as I said earlier. It's something we have to be committed to. It's something that we deliberately have to make a part of our everyday life. And we're not the only ones from whom these are hard words to hear, that especially when we get in the scriptures here in a minute. But there are some hard things that we're going to talk about tonight. And like I said, the lesson writer really put it to us, or put it to me at least. And if we stop some people, if we was to go down here to the Grand Central Mall and stop some people and ask them the question, or told them what we're going to talk about tonight, which is this: Jesus Christ commanded his followers to hate. If we stopped them in the mall and said to them, Jesus Christ commanded his followers to hate, what do you think they would say? Now, I'm not asking what you would say. I'm asking what they would say. Who's Jesus? Some of them would probably say that.
Probably wouldn't agree with what you're saying.
What's that?
They probably wouldn't agree with what you're saying.
You think most of them would disagree with it, Gary?
I think so too. And if you ask them that, then they say, why should we follow them?
Even people who are Christians does it's not right. Hate is wrong.
Everybody's been taught to Jesus as well.
Do you? What's that? You don't
I
know.
said everybody's been taught to Jesus Christ as love.
Yeah.
But there's also all kinds of things we hate. Well,
Going back to what we've talked a little bit about, that our witness speaks volumes of our relationship with Christ. Do you think there's some people out there that have been hurt and would say, yeah, that's the way I've been treated a lot of times? By the church? Would your response differ? And Gary, I think, answered that for us. Would your response differ from the people in the mall? And if so, how? We know what the scripture says. Amen. And so that's why this lesson is count the cost, discount the cost. That's why this lesson is a little maybe different, especially if you've not read the scripture and really don't know where we're at tonight per se as what the scriptures are saying. What is a situation in your life that is not what you expected? Is there something in your life that turned out differently than what you expected? Believe me, this is going somewhere tonight, folks.
I didn't expect to lose my husband when I did.
And that's the same way with me. I never, not only did I not think about losing Paul at such a young age, but for nearly a year he's not been able to communicate with me, other than to blink his eye. I never expected that. But at the same time, there were times that I might feel like I don't understand, but I never once asked God, why God? Because I just felt like there was a reason, there was something. And I think during that time, not only did I have an opportunity to witness to people, and people see Jesus in my life, but Paul did too, because they could see that in him. But I never expected that.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Have you ever made a decision on the impulse, just on the impulse, that you later regretted? I mean, we may not be able to state specifically what that might be tonight, but most of us have probably done that spur of the moment, just decision, and oh, did I make a mistake? So, based on these experiences, what or did you learn about your attitude or actions that could help you in the future? On the losses of your husbands, I mean, what advice can you give people?
I actually was mad at them.
Yeah. I think I've heard you say that before,
And
Donna.
I'm ashamed of it now, but I was. I just felt like, I mean, you would see a loved one literally starved to death because of candy. It's not good. It's just not good. Jean knows, she's my next door neighbor. She come over and sit with him a couple times. And she knows what he went through. But he was saying he never once complained. Didn't he? He never complained.
No, it was just amazing. He just always had a smile on his face right up to when God took him. I mean,
He knew he was wrong.
And I think I've shared with y'all before, you know, you go in as a pastor or an individual to encourage someone in their dying moments, and they end up encouraging you, you know, or lifting you up and helping your faith because of the way they respond to what's going on in their lives. But you, Linda, you said, you know, correct me, I'm going to just say how I heard you, that there was a reason for what happened. He was able to witness, you was able to witness. It enables you, ladies, or anybody that's been through something, to be able to minister to someone going through that thing.
That's what I felt, that, you know, someone passed away, you could go to the funeral home. And if it was someone's mother or father, I could say, I know what you're going through. I lost my mother, and I lost my father. And then it became, I lost both my brothers. I can understand. But I could never say to somebody, and it wouldn't have been fair to have said to somebody, I know what you're going through, if I hadn't lost my spouse.
Yeah.
Because you've lost a part of you that maybe, you know, you as much as you love your parents, as much as you love your siblings, you're so close to your husband, and you feel like you both are one.
Well, I mean, you are one.
And so, you know, it's very
It
difficult.
is a different relationship.
Yes, it is.
And going back to what you said there, Linda, and we've got to also, though, be careful, because every situation is different. We can tell them, I've been through what you're going through, and I can understand a lot of what you're dealing with, but if you're dealing with something that you would like to speak to me about, or, you know, maybe I can work with you. If not, you know, we can find somebody that may be able to, because every situation is different. Every relationship is different. We may have lost a parent that we were real close to, right? We talked to them every day, and we was around them, and we helped them, and, you know, we was there up to their very dying moment. But then you may have a son or a daughter that had been away from their parent for a long time because of a dispute or whatever, and all of a sudden they haven't been able to. So that situation, that relationship is going to be different, and so their grief is going to be different. You hear what I'm saying? Their grief is, I mean, I wished I could have changed something. I wished I wouldn't have reacted like I did when that came up or when that happened. Go ahead, Gary.
In my walk with God, I gotta say, there was times I prayed to God. He came and he gave me an answer. And there was times that I didn't pray fast. And I wish I had to get an answer. But there was times I prayed and fasted, and God came and he gave me an answer. And there were times I didn't take time to just pray long enough and fast long enough to get that definite answer. And I wish I would.
And so there's things we regret. There's things that we wish we could do differently. And there's a lot of things in life that, well, just turn out like we never expected it to turn out. And most often we hear the Lord's message as a command to love. As we talked there, everybody was saying, God, everything we hear, love, 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 right? However, in these verses, he tells us to hate. He tells us to hate. What? Yeah. Hate. That's what he tells us. So let's look into the scripture tonight to explore what this means. Verses 25 through 27, 2 verses there. Large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said this, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple." Such a person cannot be what's your first reaction to that? I mean, come on, I heard everybody here. What's your first reaction when you hear that? Scripture must be wrong. Somebody wrote it, somebody done a translation wrong. What's your reaction to that? Let's not get into what we think it means yet, but when you hear that, if you were that person walking down the mall and maybe, you're a Christian or non-Christian, okay, that doesn't matter, but you've been told all your life and you've heard all your life that Jesus is love and we're to love one another and to do good and all this stuff, and I come up to you and I read this verse to you. If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife, children, brother, sister, yes, even his own life, that person cannot be my disciple. And I tell you, those are red letters in the Bible. That those are words that Jesus said. What's your first reaction? What cult do you belong to there, boy? Right? Come on.
Is it because he wants them to be first in their life?
We'll get into that discussion, but what is your reaction to that? It blows your mind, doesn't it? The chapter writer, he says the command to hate is not an excuse to be a nasty person. It is a call to love God supremely, and then strengthened by that, love the world compassionately without discrimination. You satisfied with that explanation or that suggestion that Christ's statement to hate means that we're to love, that the love of the disciples has for him must be so great, as you was just starting to talk about there, Donna, so great that the earthly love is hatred by comparison? Can you see? I mean, do you basically, is that what he's saying there? That my love for Christ and the things of God, it's so great that in comparison, everything else, and even my own life, is looked at as hatred. Being quiet.
I have to agree with what the writer said there, something in that version. But God would never tell somebody to hate somebody, tell them not to do that. God would never contradict himself. Never will, never was, and never did, never will.
Let me make it a little more difficult for you and read what the writer says here. Perhaps we can use the method some preachers employ when the English translation is tough to understand or difficult to accept. Let's ask the question, what does the original Greek word mean? Okay? Well, you shouldn't have asked, he said. The word in the original is an old and very strong verb which means to hate or detest. Verb. It means action. You show by your actions. How can a God of love command us to hate? This same Jesus who said, honor your father and mother and love your neighbor as yourself and love your enemies and do good to those who hate you. Looks like an impossible situation. Love our enemies but hate our families if we want to be his disciples. What then does hate mean in these verses? Well, I shouldn't have thrown that down there, because two other places that same word is used in the scripture. Matthew 6:24 and Luke 14:26. The verb that originally meant to detest is used sometimes in the New Testament to regard with less affection, less love less, esteem less. And so two examples of that are used in those two passages of Scripture. And though true, that definition or that description, this is a dangerous definition. For it's like the tax laws. There are too many loopholes. We find so many reasons to explain away a partial commitment to the cause of Christ and our own small involvement in the ministry of the body of Christ. Somebody read verse 27 for us.
Whosoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple.
Again, going back to what the lesson writer says. He makes this statement. Our crosses are gold-plated, handsome trinkets on a chain. We treat them like an amulet, which is a small piece of jewelry to bring protection against evil, or toward evil spirits. Can you name two ways that this statement is true? Many people wear them, don't they? I mean, what do we see in cemeteries? A lot of cemeteries, we see what? Headstones with crosses, right? Stained glass windows, we see with crosses. Churches, many churches have a cross, usually behind the podium or the pulpit. An ornament or small piece of jewelry that is worn, signs. I mean, you go down the interstate and you'll see little crosses along the interstate with flowers and stuff along it, right? it is hard to tell if it is meaningful or if it is merely decoration. If you see some of the people in the world today that have no relationship with Christ, you'll see them even wear crosses. Just a piece of decoration. Meaningless to them, other than a piece of decoration. But can you explain 2 ways in which that is not true? That, we don't treat them that way as a protection against evil or a symbol of, hope that, whatever it might be. Can you explain 2 ways it's not true? What does the cross mean to us as believers? Okay. Go a little bit further, Mike. What did that death do? Oh, death, where is thy
Victory?
It gave us victory, didn't it? It's a symbol of victory over death. It's a symbol of life. Even though we die, we can still have life everlasting. It carries deep meaning for many believers and is used as a focus of worship. It's something that what's the song say? An emblem of suffering and pain, right? And so it reminds us when we see that cross as disciples of Christ, as people who love God and are truly followers of Jesus Christ. When we see that cross, we respect it. It's not the cross, but it's the remembrance of what that cross was used for. And what the person on that. That's why the Protestants do not have Jesus on the cross. He completed what he came to do. Okay, there's nothing left. He done his work. What did he say on the cross? It is finished. And so it's a symbol of victory that carries a deep meaning for you and me, and is used as a centerpiece of focus for our worship in a lot of our sanctuaries. All right, somebody read 28 through 33.
For which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and count the cost, whether he has sufficient to finish it, lest haply, after he hath laid the foundation, and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, This man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king, wanting to make war against another king, sitteth not down first and consulteth, would he be able with 10,000 to meet that cometh against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is yet a great way off, he sendeth an ambassage and desireth conditions of peace. So likewise, whosoever he be of you that forsaketh not all that he hath, he cannot be my disciple.
How might that illustration that Jesus gives us there in the scripture, 2 illustrations actually, how might his illustrations be applied today? Do we go out here and build a new home without calculating the cost? Do we build a church or add on to a church without sitting down and calculating the cost? That would be foolish, wouldn't it? We would look and see if we've got the means. The writer mentions this one, and I mentioned it only because it's a little bit intriguing. Why? But what about filing a lawsuit? Would you go and hire a lawyer and take a chance of losing more money on top of what you already lost if you didn't know for sure you could win? You know what I'm saying? We've got to count the cost. We've got to count the cost. We would want to make sure that we had enough resources to resolve or to finish the project. We're moving into a different section. We understand that I think we came to a pretty well a conclusion or an understanding that Jesus wants us to put him first and everything else is just, that's what he's talking about. But verse 33, in the same way, those of you who do not give up everything and you cannot be my disciples. Does that remind you of a story?
Rich ruler came to Jesus and he wanted to sell everything for him. He went away sorrowful.
He obeyed the law ever since he was a child. He learned it. He lived it. Wanted to know how he could have salvation. Jesus says, love thy mother and father. Oh, yeah, I've done that since I was young, Well, Jesus says, okay, now then, if that's the case, then go sell everything you have, and give to the poor, and come follow me.
And he started out in the right way. He said, Jesus, what good things can I do?
Yeah.
He straightened him out.
And he went away sorrowful. He went away sorrowful. Why? Because he was not willing to give up everything. Doesn't mean we have to give up everything. Doesn't mean that we've got to sell everything we have or whatever and go follow Jesus. But we've got to be willing to do that. If he says to do that, you do it. How many, we've got a neighbor just lives down the street, and I'm not sure, they basically sold everything they had, and they've gone to the mission field. That's what the Lord had told them to do, and that's what they did. They sold everything, their home, they had a big old garage sale, they sold everything. And if we're not willing to, Jesus is saying, we can't be his disciple. Hard lesson tonight, ain't it?
Hey, Pastor.
Yes, sir.
When I was out in Parkersburg, when I was out in college, there was a guy, people come from all over the United States. They didn't even know hell out of Egypt and other. But I remember some of them, they had to give up a lot of stuff in order to be there. And I remember one guy said he had a business, and it was real good business. He said, Lord, want me to put a Bible college, make my business go downhill. Where to go? Yeah, I'm going. It was his way of finding out that the Lord told me to make my business go downhill. But he had good business. It went. That was his time to go.
Put that fleece out, didn't he? And old Lord made it wet on one side, dry on the other.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
I know I'm talking too much, but
No.
earlier about the cross. Paul gets nailed in the head, he laid it to the one. He's I am crucified for Christ, nevertheless I live. Yet not I, but Christ lives in me. And there's the crucifixion that you gotta have right there.
It's one of my favorite verses. Salt is good. I love salt. I love salt. I'm going to probably make some of you mad on green apples. Rhubarb. Take a stalk of rhubarb right off the out of the ground and peel the red and stuff off and take it and put salt on it. And is your mouth watering, Gene?
It's peppering.
Mine's watering. Put that salt on that rhubarb and just eat it like that. I love that. I love rhubarb that way. Watermelon, I love salt on watermelon. On my apples, I take the salt shaker like this and put a pile of it in my apple when I get it wet and dip it down in there. And I go at it, But I started out with green apples and with salt, and I love the green apples and salt. But salt is good, the scripture says, verse 34. But if it loses its saltness, how can it be made salty again? And evidently, I'd probably have to look at the book, but the salt from the Dead Sea, there is something in it that once, if water got in contact with it, it was not good for anything. Okay? Not good for anything. And that's what the scripture really says here. But anyhow, how can it be made salty again? Well, that salt can't. It cannot be made salty again. It is fit neither for the soil nor for the manure pile. It is thrown out. It's not good for anything. Amen? It is not good for anything. Now, salt has many functions in society, and even still today. Okay, it is used to flavoring as well as preserving food. Okay, you throw salt on fish and it preserves. It's a preservative. It also makes us thirsty. You eat a lot of salt, you're going to get thirsty. If Christians are the salt of the earth, shouldn't we be making or creating thirst for God and others? Shouldn't we be making people thirsty for God? It's a hard question. We should every day look for an opportunity and even get up and pray in our first prayer of the day. Lord, send somebody my way who's thirsty for you, so I can take what you've given me and share with them. The deliberate commitment Christ commands us requires his disciples to count the full cost of following him. It's a total. We've got to be willing to sell out. We've got to be willing to leave our mother, our father, our brothers and sisters, even as a spouse that is hesitant on. I've mentioned to you about Christina and how, her and I when I got the call in my life, how she responded. And I mean, we went, Gary, you might know what KMBC was like. Have you ever been down to KMBC, Kentucky Mountain Bible College, any of you? Kentucky Mountain Bible College is an independent holiness college, and it is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we drove and drove and drove and drove for miles without seeing a town. And they put us up for the night, and I was there to check out the school. And my kids were young. They had a Christian school that was associated with the college. There was really nowhere for employment outside of, I mean, and Chrissy seen that, and her reaction was, I've shared with you all about the time I came home and she was rolled up in a fetal position in a bed in the living room, because she had felt all the pressure on her to raise the kids, to make an income while I was in school. And I told you that at that moment we stopped talking about it. We, like you were saying there, Gary, my business either goes down or I follow the Lord. If you want me to do this word, show. But anyhow, a few months later at camp, things changed. We had both heard the same message. We was in the boys' dorm at that time. We came back from that service and we started talking again. And that's when we both got on board and said, yes, Lord. But it's a hard decision to give up everything. I was working as a full-time technician, making at that time, 25 years ago about now, probably about $18, $19 an hour. I think they're up to like $25 an hour now in that field. We've got to be willing to make that commitment if that's what God calls us to do. Not everybody gets that kind of a call, but it doesn't change our commitments. Your commitment needs to be as great as the gentleman that went to Bible school and said what he said, or my neighbors down the road that went to the mission field. Your commitment has to be the same. It has to be the same. It's got to be a deliberate commitment to Christ, because it's what He commands us and He requires of us, and that is to count the cost, the full cost of following Him. Following Him. True disciples, true disciples of Jesus Christ change the world, change their world by subtle influences of their good lives and sweet spirit. One illustration it gives us here, it says one of the important and difficult tasks on a cattle ranch is breaking wild horses so they can be ridden. It is a dangerous job, but one method makes the work easier. A small burr is tied to a wild bucking horse. This pair is turned loose to wander the range, horse kicking and raging, their burro dragged and thrown about like a pillow. Eventually, the pair will return, sometimes days later. The little burro can be seen first trotting back across the horizon, leading the large, now a broke horse. somewhere out on the range, the horse exhausted himself trying to get rid of the burr. At that moment, the burr assumed leadership. I've never heard that before until I read that illustration, but true disciples of Jesus change their world by the subtle influence of their good lives and sweet spirit. It makes a difference, doesn't it? People begin to see there's something different in your life when we don't go off the deep end on everything that comes around. It can show them that that cross has a deep meaning. That the gospel message has a deep meaning. There is more to it than just words on the page. It changes individuals. No one changes. Well, the Lord Jesus Christ can change anyone if we allow him. With wrapping up tonight, I want you to consider these questions privately. Is there anything that you feel God wants you to give up so you can completely follow Jesus? And I'm going to say something here that you can agree or disagree with. But if there is something that God is wanting us to give up in our life and we are not willing to do that, I believe with all my heart that he will not continue to bless us spiritually. Why? Because we're being disobedient, right? And that's a dangerous point in our life. We talked about backsliding, right? And that could begin the process of backsliding in our lives. And if we're resisting, will you covenant to make this matter a prayer in the coming week? If there is something that you know that God is, I don't know, maybe it's, we talked about this, where Donna left us for a moment, but we talked about this Sunday, didn't we? That this thing can interfere. It's a good tool. It helps a lot of people, but it also can be an instrument to keep me away from my family, my time with God, so many other things. It could be that simple, if you want to call it simple, or it could be something more serious. We mentioned salt. It can be used for people who are hurting, in the medical field. It can be used for cleansing, encouraging change, and bringing newness, preserving. Passing the timeless truth of the gospel. We can continue to do that. Flavoring, thirsting, melting. Think about that. It's even used to melt snow off of roads. But you and I, we can be used in a medical way, in a sense, by praying for those who are hurting, interceding for those who are hurting. Cleansing. Some people put salt on their toothbrush and brush their teeth to make their teeth cleaner, I guess. Baking soda too, yeah. And we can encourage people to, their lives can be changed. And so living as others, so they're attracted to Christ, that thirsting, if you will. The writer writes this, and we'll close in prayer. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakens with the knowledge that if it does not run faster than the fastest lion, it will be killed. Every morning, a lion wakens, knowing that if it can't outrun the slowest gazelle, it will go hungry. So whether a lion or a gazelle, when the sun rises, they had better be running. Christ calls us to not merely to wake up, but to run. Make a difference in the world around us. Gary?
I'll say one more thing, and that's it. Jesus said, "Thou shalt love the Lord, thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength." That might be wrong on this, but I think a lot of people will wait for God to make that choice. We have to make that choice.
Yes.
On any us, we have to make that choice.
Yes.
We
have to be determined to make that choice. We have to be committed to making that choice. Any other thoughts? I really wish I could get you to, if you want to borrow this until Sunday, feel free to. Read that chapter. It's a good chapter. And like I said, if you're interested in the book, if we get a group that is interested in it, I'll be more than glad to order the books and get us some in. We still got several lessons to go through here. Next week, we're going to be in the book that we spent quite a bit of time in, First Thessalonians. And we're going to be looking at chapters 1, verses 3 through 10, 4, 1 through 12, and 5, 23 and 24. So if you want to refresh your mind on that passage of Scripture, do so this coming week. And hopefully we'll get an understanding and be encouraged to seek and experience the work of entire sanctification, and that's not already happened in our lives. Well, let's close in a word of prayer this evening. Mike, would you close in prayer for us?
Lord, we thank you again for this opportunity to be in your house. Thank you for this lesson, Lord, and what it means to hear your word. Be with each one of us in your separate ways, God, and direct us. We ask in your precious name.
Amen. Thank you, Mike.